Join me today as we talk about why can't we just get our talk to text on our cell phones a lot better than it is? I got to make corrections all the time. The Epstein files, we're still talking about them, The Genesis Act, the Clarity Act, Congress just passed that, and the recession bill that's going to save our country $8 billion a year, cutting down these media formats that aren't doing anything but putting out propaganda. And I got banned from TikTok for a week because somebody said I gave misinformation and didn't like what I had to say. Do we really have freedom of speech in this country? I don't think we do. And it stops at TikTok. Stick around. You just might learn something. Welcome to the Eric T Conversation. I'm Eric T. Why can't we get talk to text right on our cell phones? We can't. Every time I try to use it instead of writing a text while driving, for safety purposes, it never comes out right. It never comes out right. It's always misspelled, always jargled. It's always not even interpreting what I say accurately, and I got to go back and I got to type it over anyway. I mean, really? I have an Android, so you can say what you want. But I don't know how good iPhones are, but they can't be any better because I get text messages from people from their iPhones, and it's just as jacked up. But we have yet to be able to master the talk to text. If you want us to stop texting on our phones when we are driving, get talk to text down. We've got AI now. I can look up anything I want and get the answers without getting 15 different subjects from Google. It's working great. I love AI. You mean you can't work on talk to text? You would think that'd be a pretty important one with all the driving issues that we have of people having accidents, not paying attention to the road and screwing around with their cell phones. Let's do, Elon, can you work on that now too? Work on something with the cell phones so when I talk into my phone, it gets exactly what I'm saying. It's like when you get a new cell phone, it should recognize your voice. You should talk into it, say the alphabet or whatever that is for voice recognition, and it would know the way you slur your words or you make certain syllables and sounds. It should know that by the time you're done setting your cell phone up. So when you talk into it, it should say everything that you said into the phone. Because a lot of times you can say because sometimes you on your phone, you want to say, I got to go to a public space, and it interprets it as penis face. And now you're stuck with penis face, and you got to go back and delete it and retype it. So can we fix that? It's just a small adjustment. I'm waiting for the iPhone and a new Android to say, we now have superior talk to text, when it will understand and interpret every single thing you say, and it'll put the curse words in it. If I say the F word, man, put it in there. I don't need F ... SH ... A ... I want the whole thing. Let's do that. Make some adjustments. Can we just do that, please? Now, the Senate just passed a rescission bill. The President Trump has cut the government with some of the Doge spending. They got rid of NPR and PBS, things like that, some other programs. And it was a 50-50 split. So some Republicans didn't even want to cut the Doge spending. Vice President J.D. Vance had to come give the tiebreaker on that. I'm like, really? You don't want to save $8 billion of the taxpayers' money going to funding these television programs that really are the strong arm of the left? But you would think Republicans would have got that hands down, but they don't. They just constantly can't agree on anything. It's almost laughable. So that at least passed. So now it's going to go down to the Congress, and Congress has kind of got their act together just a little bit better than the Senate does. So that's going to pass probably with flying colors. We're going to get an $8 billion cut with that, which is going to save a lot of money for Doge. And then we also have the new Genesis Act, which Congress is about to pass. And a lot of people are pissed off about it. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, the Genesis Act is a stablecoin bill to allow stablecoins to be utilized for transaction purposes for the federal governments and payment systems. And it's going to be pegged to the U.S. dollar. So it's actually going to strengthen our U.S. dollar because stablecoins are going to be tied to 1-to-1 of the U.S. dollar. So stablecoins, if you don't understand, they don't fluctuate like a regular cryptocurrency. It's just a dollar. So whatever the value is it's tied to, which is the U.S. dollar, that's the price of the stablecoins. But the problem is when President Trump signed his executive order banning CBDCs, the Genesis Act doesn't put that in the bill. So here's a conundrum. So a lot of people are focused on the Genesis bill didn't actually say no CBDCs should be developed, but it also didn't say there should be CBDCs developed. Now, if you don't know what a CBDC is, it's a central bank digital currency that a lot of people, a lot of critics are saying that's the way they're going to monitor all of your spending. If you go to the store and they see you bought too many soft drinks that day, that they're going to say, oh, well, you bought too many soft drinks that day. You can't use that money anymore. Cash is still king, guys. Money is still good, but it's going to be used as a stable coin to make the payments. Now, the payments are going to be behind the scenes. You're not going to feel them. So when the banks are transferring money through the SWIFT payment, system, they're going to utilize stable coins. When the United States is going to send aid to another foreign country, they're going to transfer it on a blockchain with stable coins so you can track all that funding, which is a good way to do it. So the CBDC is completely different than what we're doing. And there is also an executive order that's going to be in place until Trump either gets out of office and the next person comes in there and reverses it, which hopefully they do not, or there's legislation that's a single line bill that bans CBDCs to utilize the United States. There's a lot of skepticism both ways, but I think the stablecoin bill is actually perfect for the United States. It's going to put us in the forefront of cryptocurrencies, and that's just step one because the Clarity Act is coming next, and hopefully that all gets done in the next couple of weeks, and now it's finalized, and you'll start seeing cryptocurrencies start to rocket up now because they're actually moving very quickly now, and when this legislation stuff passes, it's going to be a free-for-all for cryptocurrencies. So get ready for that. So I believe from what I've looked at, the Genesis Act is a really good thing. It's a stablecoin bill. It's going to be good for America. And don't worry, they're not going to be tracking you and everything you spend. There still is an executive order forbidding that. And cannabis is big in the news right now. There's a lot of weed that's coming out of China. And it's illegal weed, and it's laced with all kinds of toxins, pesticides, and all types of bad things. There's so many. There's like a list of 10 or 11 different chemicals that are in these products that they're getting from these illegal cannabis stores. Now, they've been finding them in Maine, and they've been finding them in California. And what they're doing is they use them to fumigate these hoop houses to protect them against mold and pests. The problem is they're on that weed. So when you're smoking that ganja, you're ingesting into your body. It causes nausea. It can cause cancer, all kinds of ailments. So people, if you're looking at getting weed from some of these stores, make sure it's a reputable dispensary that you're getting your weed from. Because if you're smoking this illegal stuff that comes from these other countries, because of the fact it's probably cheaper, you're smoking all kinds of toxins. These toxins are banned in the United States. We don't even use them because they're so toxic. So be careful of what you put in your body. Or you get your dime bag and nickel bag from the guy down the street because he's got the good stuff. He grows in his mom's basement. And the Epstein files are still in the news, and it's not going away. The House Rules Committee brought forth a bill by a Democrat to vote on whether they should allow the Epstein files to be released. Now, the Republicans are in charge of it, 7-4, but in a vote basically down party lines with only one Republican siding with the Democrats, they voted to not allow that. So in other words, they voted to not allow it to hit the congressional floor for a vote to make sure Pam Bondi, the AG, allows for full disclosure of everything that's in the files and to preserve all the files that are in there so it can be made public to the United States. They voted it down. I said before, it's getting hard to defend these Republicans all the time because they keep getting in everybody's way. Listen, I get it. Everybody wants to move past the Epstein files, but it's not going away. It's not going to go away until it's completely put out into the public. Just today, Trump came out in front of the press corps and said, it's up to AG Pam Bondi. Whatever she wants to do with those files, he's left it totally up to her. And I think that's a little misleading. I truly believe that she didn't release those because Trump didn't want them to be released. So he's trying to spin it like she can do whatever she wants. Let's see what AG Pam Bondi does. Is she going to release the Epstein files so everybody in America can finally put this behind us and move on? Because you got Alan Dershowitz now saying there is no list. There isn't some nefarious thing going on. There are people that have been accused of things with minors. He says some of them are dead. Some of them aren't even in politics anymore. Some of them used to be in politics. But he said it's not a really extensive list. He said you can probably fit it in your hand, the amount of people that are on it. He said it's all redacted. 2 judges in New York have completely redacted all that information, that it have to be released by a federal judge in order for that stuff to be released anyway. But he said, look, I can tell you who's on it just by systematically processing what the accused were and who they were, and different names that were redacted, and but different names of the people who are the accusers. He said, I can tell you who they are. What didn't take that long for him to figure that out. But he said there's no extensive list. And he certainly didn't say Trump was on it. Having said that, by knowing that Alan Dershowitz was Epstein's attorney, and he said he wasn't even an agent of Mossad, because he said he went to Israel with Epstein, and Epstein didn't know anything about Israel, needed Alan Dershowitz to organize some meeting with him with a couple other prominent officials that were there. So he said if he really been an agent of Mossad and in Israel, that he would have known a little bit more than he actually did. Take that for what it's worth. I tend to believe Alan Dershowitz. He is an attorney, a very respected one at that. And so we'll see what happens with that, see if Pam Bondi actually releases all of those files. And some cool news from my state, Florida. We are now the #1 state in the country for economic growth, I think for the 3rd time already. So whatever Ron DeSantis is doing, and he's doing a lot, is working for this state of Florida. We've got great growth, low taxes. People are flooding in here from all other states, from the blue states, from the policies that are over there, the high taxes from these other states. And right now, he's trying to get rid of property tax for all the homeowners here in the state of Florida. And that's going to be put on the ballots in November. And it needs 60% of the vote in order to pass. And then it becomes a law. And then there's no more property tax for homeowners. So that's great. And I really believe that's going to go through. So Florida's kicking butt right now. It's kicking butt. And I think he's laying the groundwork for a presidential run in 2028. And I know a lot of MAGAs are pissed off at him because he ran in the first place. But look, man, you got to let bygones be bygones. I really believe that. He's done a great job with the state of Florida. He is the only person that I see right now, as far as the governor's concerned, that is mirrored very much the way Trump handles the press, the way Trump handles other politicians, and the way Trump handles making laws for the country, and then Ron DeSantis in the state. So he's doing a really good job, and I think he's really doing it to try to get back into good graces of the American people, because he really pissed off a lot when he ran. And look, I get it. He listened to the wrong people. He listened to the right elitists that were telling him Donald Trump's going to go to prison. We're going to need somebody, and if you get in later, it's going to be too late for you to get in and develop momentum, and you're not going to win. He listened to him, and that's what happens in politics. You try to listen to the so-called experts in this, and sometimes they steer you wrong, and that was a mistake on his part. So we'll see what happens, but he's definitely pining for a run in 2028, and I think he's setting himself up in the right place for that. Something interesting today, I was interviewed by a journalist that worked for the World magazine, a young guy, and he covers congressional issues up in D.C., and he reached out to me about my podcast of things that I've been saying about the Epstein files and how they need to be released and things like that. It was a great little interview. It was pretty cool for me to do that. I have never been interviewed. I've just kind of started this, so I'm new to this whole thing. So that was pretty thrilling on my part to be actually interviewed by somebody that thought my content is worth talking about. But afterwards, he asked me what my last name was. And I was real skeptical about giving it. And I don't put it on my show at all. But I was really leery about giving it to him just because of the fact the kind of people that are out there that are lunatics that harass people that are from the right. And I find that sad that I didn't want to give him my last name. I did give him my last name because you know what? I own it. If I say something, I'm going to own it. But I was apprehensive about doing it because of the fact you hear all the horror stories that happens to people. Now, I'm a small nobody. I just do this from my office, and I just have fun with this, and I like debating people and having some arguments. I think it's good for you. But I was really upset deep inside that our country has become to that point where people can have a difference of opinion without trying to personally attack them or even physically attack them. And I think that's a sad place. And I believe the media has done a really good job at doing that. They've really divided this country with the rhetoric and the spew of hate that they constantly put out there. So I put my last name on it. Hopefully it works out and nothing bad happens to me or anybody in my family. But it was sad that I actually had to think about putting my last name on something because of the way the country is. And some people on a certain side get so angry if you disagree with them, to the point where I was having a TikTok live the other night and I got shut down because somebody said I had misinformation. I was just having a debate with people. I wasn't giving any real specifics, and stuff that I do talk about, I try to look up before I get involved with it to make sure I'm giving people accurate information, but then they shut me down. And then when they shut me down, they don't give any explanation. They don't show you a video snippet of what you said. They just said it was misinformation, and that's it. So I appealed it, and it got turned down. So I'm suspended off of TikTok for a week because somebody on the other side didn't agree with what I had to say. TikTok is not free speech. It is not. And I find it sad that Donald Trump continues to give them an extension, and they don't allow right-wing topics to be discussed, and they censor people for speech. I have no problem with someone coming at me with hate. I have no problem. None. I should be able to say what I want to say too. This is America. And I don't care if it's a privately owned platform. Social media has changed the way we look at things, changed the way we get our information. And you know what? X does a pretty good job on it. They're not perfect, but they do a pretty good job. If you say something that doesn't really fit the narrative or it's incorrect, you get a community note. And you can still see the article. You can still read the information, but there's a note with some factual information on there which lets you know that this is probably not true. And that's what TikTok should have. TikTok should allow whatever you want to say on there be said, because what they do is suppress speech from one side or the other. Because when I do these lives, it's shocking. It is 90% left. 90%. That's strange. When the country's about 50-50, but I get 90% coming at me from the left on anything that I do. Some of the other ones aren't that bad. Facebook is getting a little bit better. Instagram's getting a little bit better. They're more neutral now. It's not as bad because they've released that algorithm that modifies and censors all of your speech that you put on there. So that's good. So some of these platforms are learning. But TikTok, Trump keeps giving you an extension. And you keep censoring people that are voicing opinions that are on his side. I think that's shameful. And they should be better than that. This clip probably isn't even going to go out, and it's going to get shut down because I mentioned the word TikTok and who owns it, which is sad. Anytime you say that particular country, you got to use a letter. You can't even say the country or you get flagged. They remove hashtags. This is America. Freedom of speech. And I'll die on that hill because we should be allowed to say whatever we want to say, whether it pisses you off or not, because freedom of speech isn't to protect the speech you like. It's to protect the speech you don't like. Anyway, that's it for today. Join me next time for a little chit chat, some observation, and some good old-fashioned conversation.